Welcome back, everyone, to Goody and Johnny Mo with the movies. It's been a little bit of a hiatus for us.
It got about at least 3 weeks, I think.
3 weeks, yeah, since Avengers came out that we haven't done a video.
We took a little break. That's okay.
But tonight we're going to have a little bit of fun because we get to do a double feature. So for episode 14, we are going to be reviewing Brightburn. And then for episode 15, which we'll do right after this, we're going to end up doing Aladdin.
The new live-action Aladdin.
So before we get started, our traditional drink of the night.
I am drinking a Spaten, but it's a different type of Spaten. It's the Spaten Optimator. It's a Doppelbock, which is kind of heavy, malt liquor. Not for everyone, but I will do my darndest to complete this whole glass before the night is over.
Tonight I'm going with a Guinness. This is an extra foreign stout, a little bit of a higher alcohol content.
Yeah, not quite an imperial stout, but pretty close, I think.
So I think with that, we're going to start off episode 14.
All right.
Cheers. So, Brightburn, I was introduced to the idea of this film a few months back, I think, right when the first trailer came out. I think I was watching a video or something on Collider, and then this kind of popped up, and I'm looking at this thing, and I'm like, this looks very much like Superman's origin story, except evil. And I just kept seeing more and more about this. I kept reading about it. James Gunn, and I don't know if it's his brother or his cousin, wrote the film. And I think James even produced it. James didn't direct it though. But, I mean, you could definitely see some of, I think, his style, I guess, within this film. But I called up John the other day and says, hey, listen, that movie Brightburn's coming out.
And I had absolutely no knowledge of this film whatsoever.
This was literally the day before it was released.
Yeah, Chris calls me up and says, you want to go see Brightburn? I'm like, what the hell is Brightburn? And he's telling me about it. I'm like, this was not on my radar at all. Had never heard of it, never saw a preview. And I was just like, so, but he started telling me about it, and I'm like, okay, I'm in. Let's go check it out. And I think you did manage. I think you showed me.
Yeah, I showed you the trailer.
A trailer of it before we went.
Like literally before we went, like an hour before we went to go see the film. Like, oh yeah, by the way, maybe you should watch the trailer and see.
And to me, it was just very odd. It's very uncommon that I would have absolutely no knowledge of this type of film coming out, but it just, whatever, just got past everything. So it was interesting. So I went into the movie relatively blind.
And needless to say that this will be spoiler heavy.
Yep.
We are going to be letting it all hang out, so just be prepared. If you haven't seen it, you might want to hold off on watching this until you go and actually do see it. Overall, right off the bat, I want to say that I enjoyed this film. I think the trailer pretty much gives you what this movie's going to be about. I don't, aside from maybe the ending, I don't know if there's too many things that are really shocking in this. Well, with the, you know what, I will say this. The one thing that was shocking is there's a lot more blood and gore in this than I would have expected.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I was expecting, once I found out what this movie was about, which, to be truth be told, it really is a kind of twist on the Superman story, but very much like, not like subtly. It's like,
it's heavy-handed.
It's completely like, we're going to tell the Superman story a different way where something else happens, it's a different scenario. But literally, you have, the ship coming down, crash landing on Earth.
In Kansas, by the way. Like, the amount of nods to Superman in this is just uncanny. Like, you can't ignore what they were going for.
Yeah, it's totally on purpose.
Like, it takes place in Kansas on a farm by this couple who couldn't have kids.
Right. Find the child
in the woods, in the fields,
like a meteorite coming down, and it was it's a spaceship.
Right. They adopt them.
They bury the spaceship. They somehow get the spaceship to be underneath the floorboards of their barn.
Right.
It's one of the things I had mentioned to Chris is after the whole thing was done, I was like, wow, I'm curious if DC was going to sue over this movie, because it almost is,
because it's distributed by Sony. It's not, not Warner Brothers.
Because it takes heavily from the Superman mythos, and obviously and blatant. Like, no one can sit there and say, oh, it was an accident. It was an obvious and blatant take, but not done to steal it. I think it was done to tell the story in a different way, in a different slant.
Yes.
And I'm okay with that. But I'm actually surprised DC was okay with that.
I mean, they did something new with it. It's not like this was repeat. I mean, some of the original plot points of Superman are there, but it's only to set up the story, because the kid is completely different. Like, you have this loving, you really do, like, the mother and father are a loving couple, and they want to do right by their kid.
Yeah.
But when they start to find out that he has powers, they are almost in disbelief a little bit. Not the dad so much.
Yeah.
The mom. The mom is a lot more protective.
I think one of the faults of and I'll get into the later, is I think almost the parents come off as almost too naive that you could possibly believe.
Yeah, and it really took until the end for them to, like, the light bulb to come on.
Yeah, I mean, unless this kid ripped somebody's head off right in front of them, they didn't think anything could possibly go wrong.
Like, this is a kid who really, once he found out that he had abilities, he couldn't keep things in check, and he really started to get the complex of, well, if you don't do what I want, things are going to end badly for you.
Yeah, and I think I want to so this movie is like it's a superhero movie, but like a bad superhero movie, like not
bad in terms of content,
like
just
an evil superhero. Yeah. It's like an evil superhero movie,
but almost like horror too. Though.
Well,
like,
no, it's
horror.
Multiple genres. Yeah. It's wrapped in a somewhat of a science fiction film, but I think the heaviest influence by far, I think, is horror.
Yes,
because to me, in my opinion, the film was too short. What was the running time of the film? A little bit over an hour and a half.
I think so. Yeah.
I felt the film was too short for what they were doing, because they spent a lot of time on, I think, the horror scenes, and the graphic violence and brutal murders, and almost even scenes of torture and such. And they didn't spend enough time on, I think, character development and story.
Yeah. I think they kind of get right to it.
Yeah,
like there's a lot of it where I almost felt like
they would just
here we go, and we're going in, and it wasn't as much seeing the kid really start to kind of play with all this as much as I would have liked.
Yeah, and I think it's a standard one of these scenarios where someone has an idea for a film, and in this case, it's actually kind of. I'm ashamed they didn't do more with this film, because it was a really like an almost, I want to say almost not quite 100% unique, but it was a pretty fresh take on a standard genre. And so they have this idea. It's like a bad Superman, an evil type of Superman, and not even Superman in a sense, because it's really Superboy,
right?
And so someone has the idea for this type of movie. And I think they just kind of threw it together and went with that and did what they did. And I feel like in terms of horror filmmaking, it was standard fare. But it was a different type of horror film, because it wasn't a person or a monster. It was like this super-powered kid.
Right.
So you got to see like a horror movie in a different type of vein that we're used to. And I just wish they would have. I wish they would have did more with the story, instead of just going, let's just make this type of story and we're going to do it and we're going to make money. And it's like, I feel like they almost wasted their opportunity, not necessarily to do something great, but to do something better than they did. And I think they just needed to add about 25 minutes to the film.
Maybe not even.
25 minutes to the film of better plot, better character, better story driven. And I think you would have gotten more emotionally involved.
Well, I wonder how much of it ended up on the cutting room floor. Like, I wonder how many deleted scenes did not get put into the film, and also was any of this on Sony's part? Did Sony want a low-budget, shorter film?
Yeah.
We want more turnover. We want it under 2 hours. Like, I wonder how much they were kind of in the director and the editor's ear, like, okay, let's keep this film under X amount of time.
Yeah, and it's a shame when people think like low budget, where like you may not have as much money for special effects and all that stuff, but they actually did pretty well in special effects.
Yeah, I thought so too.
How much extra money does it cost, to write a better film? You know what I mean? Like that shouldn't be the bottom line, because I can't imagine, a good writer is so much more astronomical. I think, an extra 15 minutes of special effects is 10 times that amount.
I didn't have that much of a problem with the writing. I really didn't. But I agree with you that they might have been able to add at least 2 to 3 more scenes that could have better developed some of the characters.
Well,
the
yeah,
kid especially.
I thought it really jumped through hyperspace right from the beginning. There was the whole of them finding the kid was really fast.
Well, then you go right to,
and it went right to.
They do a development.
He's
well, they
whatever,
do
12,
they
13
do
years
that
old.
montage of him as a baby and just starting to grow up and hitting his milestones.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if the kid was going to show anything while he was hitting his milestones, if any of his abilities were going to start to show.
You know what? And they didn't really.
And nothing like that happened until he actually hits his 13th birthday.
Yeah, I felt like they didn't explain enough about the science fiction stuff behind it. They don't talk
That's part
about
of the mystery. We don't know how he has his abilities. Is he getting it from the yellow sun, or is the kid just
powerful?
Is he powerful at a certain age? His powers kick in. Well, his powers really started to kick in once the ship activated. Right. So again, this is another montage.
Right. So that's the
Superman the movie.
And that's one of the things I find a little annoying is when they don't give you anything, so it's a mystery. But if it's a mystery and they provide you nothing, that means they have nothing. You know what I mean? It's not like there's this whole backstory that is behind the scenes. If you don't give any of that backstory, they didn't write it.
Well, they hope. But the thing is, did they write it? And they're like, okay, we're going to cross our fingers that we get a sequel.
Maybe it got cut.
Or no, just that we're crossing our fingers that we're going to get a sequel and we're going to get to do more with that.
Because they didn't talk about anything about where he came from or almost his purpose. It's just they just have the ship. He shows up,
right.
and yeah. So it's even hard to know if he had these powers before he hit puberty, which I think is what it all coincided with.
Yes,
he kind of hit puberty,
and then
his body's changing, and the ship started to come to life and start talking.
But that's and again, that's right out of Superman the movie where Clark wakes up on the farm and he hears a beacon or something from his ship and decides to go to it. Where in this one he decides, the kid wakes up, starts going to the ship, but he's almost sleepwalking though. He's actually not awake, and he tries to get the ship open. He can't get to it. But even at the point when the ship is revealed and you're trying to, and the kid's there. He gets cut by the ship, so all of a sudden, okay, so because this is from his planet and everything, that can damage him. Again, going back to the Superman lore, his home fragments from his own planet can hurt him.
Well, I mean, so in the Superman movie, even as a baby or as a young he's
showing abilities.
Superman is strong.
Didn't have all of his abilities.
Didn't have all his abilities, but at the very least was pretty strong. And so I think in this movie they kind of say that growing up
he
never bled.
Wasn't displayed anything except for that. That was the only thing.
Basically, he never bled. He never bruised. So they kind of know that he's invulnerable. And I would find it hard to believe that invulnerability didn't come with some sort of strength.
Right.
So it's I think
maybe he just never tested himself or never knew.
It could be.
Because we don't really see that until he's trying to start the lawnmower and then throws it halfway across the farm.
Right, and I think they gloss over those points. These are slightly little illogics that they don't explain, but they get away with it because they literally jump to almost to the point where, he's hitting puberty now, and the ship is starting to communicate with him, whether he's really aware of it or not. Because ultimately, prior to that point, he thought he was a normal boy.
Right, he just thought he was adopted. He knew he was adopted, but not
knowing from another
planet. And then finally, his dad tells him, and it's
actually no, the mom tells him.
Is it the mom that tells him?
The mom tells him.
Oh, that's right. Because the mom that's right.
Yeah.
So the mom tells him, and he does not react like the way Clark reacted in any of those iterations. Basically, the kid freaks out, says, "You lied to me," and just takes off. And then eventually ends up calming down. But
I mean, ultimately, he's a confused kid.
Yeah, like you can
starts getting these powers
and doesn't know what, and like you could see, like he doesn't know why. He seems very confused about it, but knows he's powerful because he's a smart kid. That's the one thing that they played on early, was that this kid, you know, he's got a brain. He definitely is very smart.
I feel like I feel like the kid's performance though is a little held back. Like I almost feel like he's always like he's not emoting or anything. He's always like everything is reserved and expressionless
until he gets angry.
Yeah, well then he gets mad.
When he ever gets angry, I think he does it. But other than that, he seems very reserved.
Yeah, I don't feel I feel like there would have been like more of an internal conflict of the messages he's getting from the ship, which is, you know, basically, you know, pretty much to kill everybody.
Well, basically, throughout the film, he's starting to he keeps repeating whatever alien language there is coming from the ship, and then he starts to decipher what the words are. Yeah. And it's it was rule the world?
I thought it was burn the world.
Destroy the world?
Or destroy the world. Basically, destroy the world.
Yeah, it was rule the world, destroy the world. It was something like that.
Yeah, so it's almost like he's getting like messages from the ship programming him, you know, what his purpose is. You know, and they don't, you know, like, but a lot of this information you're guessing. You're gleaning from the film and you're guessing, and they don't really give you like a solid enough information. And again,
that's where
and I don't think that was their point. I think their point was to just basically, this movie was more in line with a horror film than a superhero movie or a science fiction film, because there wasn't enough conflict or heady content to really get into good sci-fi, and the superhero part, I just think, was the vessel for this horror film. Their intention, I think, was to make a horror film with a superpowered hero as the bad guy.
But that's just it. Like the main person in this story is the villain.
Yeah,
you know, like we're not seeing a hero fight a villain in this. It's basically the villain the entire time, and he just does pretty much whatever he wants.
Yeah, he was basically coming into his own.
And you just start to see him. Anyone that basically crosses him pretty much ends up dead.
Yeah, and I almost think that the violence, the graphic violence in the movie is, I don't want to say it's offsetting. I think it was very excessive. I was not expecting it to be that brutally violent. I mean, it was very graphic. I mean, you're talking
there were multiple scenes.
You know, I mean, and they were prolonged scenes. Like these were the showcase scenes of the movie.
But it was almost like this kid was testing what he could do, at the same time torturing them. Like it wasn't just because he could have taken anybody.
He could have just killed anybody in a second.
But the fact that he makes it linger and last, it's like he is putting these people through torture.
Yeah, well, and I think also it's also what the filmmakers were trying to do is like, because, you know, like at the end of the day, if he just runs around and just, you know, gets behind people super fast and, you know, chops, you know, rips their head off, like there's no fun in that. There's no fun in that from the filmmaker standpoint. So they started putting together all these like complex scenarios of graphic violence. You know, people are getting, you know, really brutally killed.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, I did enjoy the suspense in a few of these scenes where you didn't know what the kid was going to do. I actually enjoyed that because I didn't. That was a little unexpected too. It was just that to me is where this was such a good mix. It's like you had the superhero part, this like a supernatural aspect about, or the science fiction aspect, and then the horror aspect. It's like these three movie genres are all kind of coming together, and each, you know, different scenes can kind of cling to a certain category or one of those three.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think that was the to me, that was the novelty of the film. That was the novelty of the film that made it, I think, a worthwhile venture to see, because you're seeing types of scenes that you're just not used to seeing these types of scenes done in this way,
right?
Where you have like, you know, like a super fast, you know, Superboy, you know, jump cutting and doing these things. So you're definitely seeing a movie that you never really seen before.
Yeah, but for a low budget film,
yeah,
superhero film, like I thought the special effects were pretty good.
No, they were, and they used it to. I mean, there definitely was like there definitely was a stylistic nature to it, because the way they presented the boy, with the outfits that he were wearing, which were very thrown together like kids, but like him like hovering in the air, and
the
red eyes
was used very well.
Was used very well.
Yeah.
I mean, that was because basically the powers that this kid has is really very much along the lines of what Superboy or Superman had, which is flight, speed, and vulnerability, and these
heat vision,
these eye beams.
Yeah. The only thing that was new is that I feel like, and I was telling John this when we saw the film, is that he definitely had some type of effect on electromagnetic fields, because whenever he was starting to use his abilities and his powers, or he was upset, if there were lights on or anything like that, anything electronic would start to like flicker, and it happened every single time I feel like he was using his abilities. So he had to have some like that. That was one of the things that was different. He did not appear to have super hearing, because people were talking multiple times near him, and he didn't really seem to know what was going on.
Yes,
he didn't allude to it. His parents multiple times were talking at like normal volume, and he doesn't seem to be picking that up.
Maybe that's how they avoided the lawsuit, by having a couple of superpowers,
by changing a few of those powers. Nothing other than heat vision. He didn't seem to have any other no telescopic vision or anything like that, or X-ray vision, nothing like that. But I mean, when I first saw this trailer, I mean, that's one of the things that drew me to this. Obviously, I mean, I'm such a huge Superman fan that this, I'm looking at this and I'm like, this is so interesting.
It had the feel of an Elseworlds story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, not so much like a Red Sun where.
I mean, if anyone's familiar with what DC does, basically, Marvel used to do this in the '70s with their What If stories. DC finally got on board with that. I want to say in the 90s.
80s and 90s. I mean, late 80s, early 90s.
I think 90s. They started doing these stories called Elseworlds, which were just different takes on classic, superhero.
It took place outside of canon, but they were told as if they were like
famous ones were like Gotham by Gaslight, for example, which was like basically Batman in the time of Jack the Ripper. Or they would do they did. I mean, the first ones they did, I think, were pretty good, and it was a good, and they did so many. Yeah. But this is what definitely that had to feel like.
But this, I mean, even the font for the trailers was the Man of Steel font. Like if you go back and you compare the two trailers, the text in the trailers, both were identical. I thought that was great. But the other night we actually had Man of Steel on, funny enough, and there's a scene with Jonathan Kent, and he's talking to Clark, and he's probably around like 13 years old at this scene, so it kind of seemed perfect. And he says to him, as you get older, you're going to have to decide what kind of man you want to be, because the person who you decide to become, whether it's good or bad, is going to change the world. That is this movie. That is Brightburn, because this kid is choosing to go bad.
You know what? I almost feel like he's not choosing. I almost feel like the choice is being made for him. They make it feel like, because with like so many times he's drawn to that ship. He's not even aware. He's like floating above it.
He is, but he's choosing to kill all these people though. Because when they start to make a decision that's going to somehow impact him, where he's going to get reported to his mom from the council, or he's going to get reported to the sheriff from the council. He's like, that's going to be bad for you. Or something's going to happen where it's going to get back to his mom, or the girl that he liked, the mom said bad things against him, so he didn't want the girl hanging out with him anymore. So anything that was going to negatively affect him, he made the choice to basically end that person.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, it's not like, he definitely wasn't doing things against his will. I just almost feel like he was almost like pre-programmed in some way. So that when he hit puberty, the ship is basically, just forcing these instructions down his throat.
He gets activated. Yeah, it's almost like he's a sleeper cell.
He's getting these instructions where it's like, the final, like the the final end game of his character is like destroying the Earth.
Yeah.
Like it's not even like ruling the Earth, taking over.
No, it's destroying it.
It's total. It's like just destroy, kill everybody.
You know, and the parents finally start to. Well, the dad really starts to pick things up, and he starts to get real nervous. Like at one point, he even says, like, we should have took care of this when we found him. And you know, Elizabeth Banks, who I thought she was great in this. I really like. She definitely played the caring mother. Like, okay, no matter what my son does, I'm going to stand by him. I'm going to love him. Even when all these bad things really start to happen, and you can see the dad start to get very suspicious. Well, at one point, the dad gets so like after like one of their, it's the sister's husband gets basically killed. And at that point in time,
the mother's sister's husband.
Right.
So his uncle, technically
his uncle, right? So the uncle, he kills the uncle in a real brutal way.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a really brutal.
I mean, very, very brutal,
very graphic.
And then the dad at this point in time figures out what's going on. So he says, you know what? I want to take the kid away. I want to bring him on a trip. Yeah. So they basically go on this hunting trip, right? And
as soon as they did that, I'm sitting there. I'm going to my head. I'm going like, you know, as much as you can try and forecast things. I'm sitting there going. I said, oh well, I already know what's going to happen here. I said, the dad is just about to find out that his son is bulletproof because he's going to shoot him, and within 2 minutes, you know. Shoots him in the back of the head, and it, you know, like in true Superman fashion,
it just bounces
right off.
The kid turns around and is like, it doesn't say anything to him. Like it was just like I think in utter shock that his dad shot him, and I think once he did that, it was over.
Yeah, and I think, I almost feel that there was zero to none, or little to no emotional conflict within the kid himself when he's taking out his family members. Like,
no,
you know, and I think, you know, I almost feel like that's a detriment because it just makes it you know, you don't, it's not tugging, you know, it's not tugging on any heartstrings. It's not pulling on the viewer's heartstrings where you're sensing, you know, where this kid is like being pulled in two directions. You know, he's really only being pulled in one.
Conflicted.
He's not conflicted at all. He's just being pulled in one direction, which is, you know,
this is about
he's gonna kill people when he needs to, and he's doing it wholeheartedly.
Well, this definitely
without reservation or any guilt whatsoever.
This is all about self-preservation. Like all he cares about, you can tell. Once he gains his abilities, it's just basically all about him doing what he wants when he wants to, and if anyone is going to get in his way, it's going to end. And surprisingly, you saw that with his dad because he had no problem taking out his father, and he takes him out in a brutal way, heat visioning his face until it goes right through like basically his skull,
right through his eyes, into his socket,
like
right through,
just beams right through, and
it melts right through his head.
And like these are all to me, this is one of the reasons why I love Superman so much, because of all the things he could do and decides not to.
Right.
Like he could take over the world and doesn't.
This is, you know, this movie is someone's fantasy on like, you know, if Superman was bad and was like really, you know, just out to kill people, they're like, what could he do?
This is basically like the beginnings of like Ultraman. If anybody knows this is basically like Earth 3 crime syndicate where all the Justice League members, it's their evil versions of themselves. You know, I wouldn't even say this is a Bizarro.
No,
like Brightburn's not, because Bizarro,
totally not Bizarro.
Bizarro is the opposite of Superman, but Bizarro still thinks he's doing good. He's not. Bizarro, there's many iterations where Bizarro is just kind of more or less like a doof Superman and trying to do what he thinks is right. Not so much that he's trying to harm or kill people. Like this is completely different. Like Ultraman, like when he was raised and grew up, like he was like, I'm more powerful than everybody. This is my world now. Like I'm taking over, and this is the direction that they're going.
Yeah, and one of the things they do at the very end, because the end of the movie ends with like a bunch of newscasts of, you know, like what this kid does.
Michael Rooker makes an appearance.
And they allude to these other super powered.
There's
people.
descriptions of 2 other heroes.
No more than that.
Well, they showed pictures of
pictures, yeah.
but they had descriptions of 2 other heroes. One of them is basically this world's version of Aquaman. And the other one, they basically describe a woman, they describe as a witch with a lasso that makes people tell them the truth, and she chokes them with it.
Yeah.
So, like,
so it's Wonder Woman. And then they had pictures.
They had like a montage.
Definitely had a picture of a character
like
that would have been the Flash.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there was another one up there.
And there's one that I think that resembled probably this world's Batman.
So if you're looking at franchise, like that, you know, if this movie makes enough money and they greenlight it, because the character doesn't die, you know,
So the ending is basically Elizabeth Banks remembers that her son got cut from the ship. So at the end, the kid basically goes on a rampage, takes out the sheriff and the deputy sheriff, basically destroys the house, the main house that they live in. Mm-hmm. Elizabeth Banks manages to get to the barn, get to the ship,
a shard of the ship,
pulls off like a shard that was like kind of like jagging out, which I still don't know how the hell, like, the ship had to be like indestructible. Like, I'm like kind of shocked that she was able to
well, that's basically the writers going.
Just convenience.
You know, we've shown that the ship is stronger than him, and now we have a weapon for later. Even though it
So at this point in time, like she rips a shard off and she hides it, and she plays this hide and seek game with her son, and then eventually they kind of come face to face, and she basically tells him that, you know, no matter what you've done, I still believe that there's good in you. We can change this. She goes to hug him, and as she's about to stab him, which we're all expecting at this point in time that, okay, this is the direction that we all thought it was going to go.
Basically, the mother playing the mother card.
Exactly.
You know, being able to pull out that ace in the hole, the final heartstring. Because actually, the mother character, I think, is the most fleshed out emotional character.
Yes.
You know,
by far.
I think that's the one character you can connect with in the movie. And yeah, like, you know, she's gonna stab him in the back and kill him, save the day. And to me, I'm not 100% convinced that would not have been a bad thing. Like, I think that would have worked. Like,
she would have stopped them.
Yeah. But like in terms of storytelling, like I think that would have been a good ending.
If this was a one-off, I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah. But the fact that they wanted to leave it so open-ended, and I think they wanted the kid to succeed. Like, I think when you talk to when I've listened to interviews so far to the director and even to like James Gunn, it's kind of like, yeah, no, we had that in mind too, but then we were like, no, we want to go all in.
You know, and I can see that. Like, they're probably like, you know, screw it. He's evil, and guess what? He wins. He's gonna win. So going full speed in that direction.
So as she goes to stab him, she's about to strike, and he brings his hand up and stops her, and is in just shock that his own mother was going to end up doing this to him. Yeah. So he takes her.
And they just fly straight up in the air like
she can hardly breathe, and like you can see her struggling at one point. And he just looks at her, and they kind of just have this long stare, and then he just drops her, lets her go, and she crashes down. And then the next thing that he ends up doing
is that there happens to be a plane going by,
right?
And he takes the plane and just throws it down to where his house is, and to kind of fake the whole thing.
And it basically
like everybody died in a plane crash.
It just destroys all the evidence, and of course he's the sole survivor.
Right.
And that's basically the end of the film, and then it rolls into the Michael Rooker thing, and you could just see the reports of, you know, they're saying that this kid, you know, how Brightburn gets destroyed, and like they're saying like this villain or this superpowered being is just destroying things, and they have pictures of, you know, you can see like pictures of him all over. Things happen. He burns this symbol. So he has this symbol where it's like 2 B's back to back with a line down in between,
which. I don't know if that's supposed to be Brightburn, or isn't his name
something Breyer?
Something Breyer.
Brandon Breyer.
Something like that.
So so we don't really know like how that all worked out, like what the symbol is supposed to represent, but it's his symbol. So I don't know again if that's an alien symbol from his planet, because you don't really get to see that with the ship. You just see him doodling it in his like little sketchbook.
Yeah, like a billion times.
Right, but he's marked his territory, where in every crime scene that he committed something, he put his symbol on there, like, okay, this was me, and that's basically the end of the film, where we get to see like this kid is continuing his like domination, and he doesn't seem like he's stopping.
Yeah, I think one of the disturbing scenes of the film is when he winds up breaking one of the little girl's hand, You know, there's a girl that's his age who I think, you know,
she liked him. Yeah, she liked him.
And something happens in the athletic field, and he gets knocked down, and the coach tells the girl that, you know, help him up, and she doesn't want to, but she finally does against her will. And when he grabs her hand, he starts to squeeze it, and he just crushes it.
Yeah.
And then after crushing it, he doesn't just stop. Like he snaps it.
It's like he snaps the wrist. Yeah.
You know, it's like ooh, you know, it's like.
Yeah, it was. This kid was really brutal, but it just makes you, to me, like as a Superman fan, like it makes me love Superman even more because of the decisions that he tends to make. Yeah. Obviously, these are all fictional characters, but the road he tends to take rather than this road, which this could easily have just been, you know, Clark Kent growing up this way, deciding, you know what, screw everybody, I'm taking over.
Right, and I feel like you know, this was a movie that like nobody's really made this movie before, and these guys were taking a unique take on old ideas.
Yeah,
you know, and they put
a twist on it.
And I just feel like if they would have done a little bit more, you could have, like I said, you didn't even have to tone down the violence. You could have still had all of it in there.
I think if they just fleshed out the character.
If you had more fleshed out characters, a little bit better script, a little bit more like logic and continuity, you know, it just would have been a better movie. And it's like, you know, like I'm not saying, you know, this should have been Citizen Kane, but like you sit there and you go,
right.
You know, you can see where a movie has basically lazy screenwriting and characterizations, and it's like, you know, you just gotta, you know, put a little bit more artistry into it. And you know that'll make it from like a 2.5 star movie or a 2.5 star movie to a 3-star movie, or you know, even maybe a little more. You know, just, you know, giving a little bit more flesh and blood and depth and insight to some of these characters. Just a little bit more, and a little bit more goes a long way. Because otherwise, you're just left with a lot of questions and like, oh, that didn't really make sense. So you know, people wouldn't do that. Or you sit there and you're like, you know. I wish I knew a little bit more about what was going on with the science fiction stuff.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, you know,
well, the ship holds holds so many answers. You know,
and they don't give you any of them. You don't get any of them.
Yeah.
You know, I think the horror part of it was just done, you know, very like they went full speed with that. You know, at the expense of some of the other aspects. You know, and that's a shame because otherwise, it's like. It's just a horror movie with a twist, and it could have been a little bit more.
I know. I definitely agree with that. They could have expanded upon that, and you know, hopefully this movie does well enough where they do get a green light and they can do something. And
I'm very curious if this is the first of a series.
Yeah,
or was it really a one-off?
I think when everyone first went to go see this, and based on the trailers, everybody thought that this could have just been pretty much a one-off and been done. But the way they do that at the ending,
where he's still alive, and there's more of these guys.
They're going all in on the fact that they could build a franchise around this.
Sure.
And you know what? Why not? If they can keep this low budget, I don't think this movie was that much to make, as far as I know. And I think this weekend they already made their money back. I think then some. So I think they could do something really special with this. And this is, to me, one of those movies where, you know what? Maybe not a lot of people went to go see it or knew about it. This might have either a little bit of legs, or this is going to have some type of cult following.
Sure.
I could see that happening.
Yeah. Like a Donnie Darko or something like that.
Yeah, where it doesn't get, sometimes it might not got the recognition when it first came out, but later on people see it and are like, okay, we want more of this.
Yeah.
But I left this theater wanting more. Like I definitely had questions that were not answered, kind of like John was saying, but I walked out of there satisfied with this film, and I think I would definitely go see another one if they ended up continuing this franchise.
Oh, I would be very excited to see what the next level would be, because I think maybe they would ramp it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially if you're dealing with multiple characters. Again,
right.
Like we're talking about almost like a crime syndicate or like an evil Justice League.
Yeah.
But
then and then it's like, okay, who's gonna
stop them?
Stop them. So, but I think that's an interesting story too. I kept waiting for this movie's Lex Luthor.
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say,
I kept waiting for someone.
What if the good guys in this series are like good versions of villains?
Yes, but that's almost like what Earth 3 is in the DC universe. So they're really pulling from that if they go in that direction.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you're dealing with that many characters, though, that's going to be a pretty big budget. I think that's the key. You know, would Sony take a big risk again and give them more money? Yeah. I think probably will depend on how much this ends up making at the end of the day. But if the profits from this can start to well, I'm sure it didn't make $100 million over the weekend or anything close to that.
No, I think it made like 15.
Oh, really? And
I don't think it made that much because you had
basically
because Aladdin came out.
You had Aladdin came out. This is the funny thing with Aladdin is it's like, okay, so it's all these kids going to Aladdin. You know, these kids aren't going to go see Brightburn, but you know, all the parents of the kids, you know, had to go take their kids to see Aladdin.
I have a feeling this movie might not have a huge drop the second week, only because the parents that probably brought their kids to Aladdin this weekend
we're looking forward to going
are going to probably go and see Brightburn next weekend.
Yeah.
So
it'll be interesting to see the numbers.
I'll be interested next week to see if what the drop is, or if it's just such a small drop because of how this film went, or just when the timing of this film came out. But overall, I was happy with this movie. It's pretty much what I expected watching the trailers, other than like a nice little twist at the end. But I thought it was a good twist. You know, if Elizabeth Banks kills the son at the end, that would have been a satisfying ending too. But in where they were taking this film, now you kind of want to see where it goes. You're almost kind of happy that the kid lives, which is really scary to say because of all the crazy stuff he does in the movie. Yeah. But I kind of want to see where this goes.
I mean, overall for me, I enjoyed it due to the novelty. I enjoyed it because it was a different type of film in genres that I'm very familiar with. So it was interesting to see, you know, this type of spin on this type of film. Yeah. But I did wish that they did a little bit more.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I walked out of there 2.5 stars. You know, like, you know, right in that region. You know, it didn't. You know, the overall quality I thought was just like, I just felt it was just lacking in certain respects. They could have done more to bind it and expand. I just think it needed to be slightly longer. That's all. Yeah. And not, you know, 2 more horror scenes, 2 more graphic deaths.
Right. Just develop the character.
Yeah, some character development. Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly.
So guys, I think with that, we're gonna end this one.
Yep.
But don't go too far, because we'll be back with episode 15, and you'll get to hear our thoughts on Aladdin.
And with refills.
And exactly, with refills as well. So thank you guys very much.
Yep.
Take care. Enjoy.
See you in a little bit.
Tune in for the next episode. Cheers.